We live in a world where manipulation comes in subtle and not so subtle forms. There are people around you, some close, others distant, who may try to bend your thoughts, emotions, and actions to serve their interests. But here's the thing, you don't have to play by their rules. You can take control of the game. Now, manipulation isn't always malicious, but when it is, it's designed to make you feel small, to make you second guess your instincts, and to cloud your judgment. The first step in dealing with this is awareness. If you don't recognize manipulation, you can't defend yourself from it. So pay attention, be mindful of how people speak to you, what they ask of you, and how they influence your decisions. Self-awareness is your shield. Second, when you recognize manipulation, don't react emotionally. Keep your cool. Manipulators thrive on your emotional reactions. If you respond in anger, fear, or haste, you're playing right into their hands. Instead, take a step back, take a breath, and let the situation reveal itself fully. The less you show, the more control you keep. Next, be strategic. You don't have to lash out or confront manipulation head on every time. Sometimes the best way to deal with manipulators is to let them think they're winning. Let them underestimate you. Then, when the time is right, you flip the script. Turn their tactics against them. You see, when you keep your head in the game and your emotions in check, you have the upper hand. Lastly, empower yourself with knowledge and confidence. When you know who you are, when you know your worth, manipulators can't touch you. They can try, but they won't succeed. You become untouchable, not because you avoid manipulation, but because you know how to handle it. Knowledge is your power, and confidence is your weapon. Ladies and gentlemen, manipulation is only as powerful as you allow it to be. When you see it for what it is, when you control your response, and when you stand firm in your wisdom, the game changes. You are no longer the one being manipulated. You become the one who manipulates those who manipulate you. And in that, you gain freedom. Understanding the nature of manipulation is crucial in navigating the complexities of human relationships. Whether in personal, professional, or social environments, manipulation can creep in, often unnoticed at first. It can come from people we know well, family members, friends, colleagues, or from those with whom we have more transactional or surface-level interactions. The key to protecting yourself lies in self-awareness, recognizing manipulation for what it is, and understanding the tactics being used against you. Manipulation typically operates on a subtle level, which is why it can be difficult to detect. It's often disguised as kindness, advice, or concern. The manipulator might present themselves as someone who is only looking out for your best interests. But if you look deeper, you'll notice that their actions serve a more self-centered purpose. Maybe they're pushing you to make decisions that benefit them more than you. Or they might be trying to make you doubt yourself so they can gain control over your choices and actions. The first step in combating manipulation is becoming aware of these dynamics. Self-awareness allows you to question the intentions of others without immediately reacting to them. It's important to ask yourself, why is this person telling me this? What do they stand to gain? Are they genuinely trying to help, or are they trying to control the outcome for their own benefit? Manipulation thrives in the absence of this critical thinking. But when you start questioning the motives of those around you, you begin to see through their strategies. You take the first step toward protecting yourself. But self-awareness isn't just about recognizing manipulation when it happens. It also involves understanding your own vulnerabilities. Manipulators often target specific weaknesses. They might prey on your insecurities, your desire for approval, or your fear of confrontation. If you know where you're vulnerable, you can work to strengthen those areas. For example, if you realize that you often say yes to avoid conflict, a manipulator might use that against you by pressuring you into decisions you're not comfortable with. By acknowledging this about yourself, you can start setting boundaries, learning how to say no, and standing your ground when necessary. A key part of self-awareness is emotional intelligence. This means being in tune with your own emotions as well as those of others. Manipulators frequently play on emotions to achieve their goals. They may guilt you into doing something, make you feel anxious, or try to charm you into compliance. By becoming more emotionally aware, you can detect when your feelings are being influenced by someone else's agenda. This awareness allows you to take a step back, analyze the situation, and make decisions that are true to your own values and interests, not the manipulators. Another important aspect of self-awareness is being mindful of the subtle signs of manipulation. These signs can be easy to miss if you're not paying attention. For instance, a manipulator may make you feel responsible for their happiness or success. They might imply that your actions or lack thereof are the reason they're struggling. This is a classic tactic known as emotional blackmail, where they make you feel guilty for something that's not your fault. Recognizing these behaviors early on prevents you from getting drawn into their web. You also need to be aware of when you are being isolated or controlled. Manipulators often attempt to isolate their targets by creating a sense of dependency. They may try to cut you off from other people who could offer support or an alternative perspective. By doing so, they make you more reliant on them, thereby increasing their control over you. When you're aware of this tactic, you can actively seek out diverse perspectives and keep your support system intact. Self-awareness extends beyond just recognizing manipulation in real time. It involves reflecting on past situations where you may have been manipulated, understanding what allowed it to happen, and learning from those experiences. Maybe you were too trusting, or perhaps you ignored red flags because you didn't want to believe someone close to you would take advantage of you. These experiences, though painful, are valuable. They teach you how to spot manipulation earlier in the future, making you less susceptible over time. Self-awareness empowers you to reclaim your autonomy. When you're aware of who you are, what you want, and how people around you may try to influence you, you gain control over your own life. Instead of reacting blindly to manipulation, you can respond thoughtfully. Instead of letting others dictate your choices, you can make decisions based on your own needs and desires. By cultivating self-awareness, you protect yourself from being manipulated. And you also build a stronger, more resilient sense of self. You develop the ability to see through manipulative tactics, to question the motives of others, and to act in ways that align with your own truth. In doing so, you become less of a target for manipulation and more of an individual who stands firm in their own power. When dealing with manipulation, one of the most critical tools you can have is control over your emotions. Manipulators rely on emotional responses to get what they want. And they thrive when they can stir up feelings of anger, guilt, fear, or insecurity in others. They push buttons, provoke reactions, and then use those reactions to shift the balance of power in their favor. This is why maintaining emotional control is not just important, it is essential. The first thing to understand is that emotional reactions are normal. We're all human, and we naturally respond to situations that challenge us or make us uncomfortable. But in the context of manipulation, the key is learning to recognize when your emotions are being deliberately provoked. Often manipulators will use tactics like flattery to boost your ego or criticism to tear it down, knowing that these emotional highs and lows make you more susceptible to their influence. When you become aware of how your emotions are being manipulated, you can choose not to engage in that emotional roller coaster. In situations where manipulation is present, your emotions are the first thing manipulators will try to destabilize. They know that if they can make you angry, frustrated, or anxious, you're more likely to make rash decisions or say things you wouldn't normally say. When you react without thinking, you're not in control of the situation they are. That's why it's so important to manage your emotional responses before they take control of you. Instead of immediately reacting to a manipulative comment or behavior, take a moment to pause, breathe, and assess the situation calmly. Practicing emotional control doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It's not about pretending that something doesn't bother you or pushing emotions down until they explode later. Rather, it's about acknowledging your feelings while choosing how to express them. For example, if someone is trying to make you feel guilty for something that's not your fault, You might recognize that you're feeling defensive. Instead of responding defensively, which could escalate the situation, you take a step back, recognize the tactic for what it is, and respond in a way that keeps you in control. You maintain your composure. One of the most effective ways to manage your emotions in these situations is through emotional detachment. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you stop allowing your emotions to control your decisions. When you detach emotionally, you can look at a manipulative situation more objectively. You see it for what it is, a tactic designed to provoke a specific reaction from you. This awareness gives you the power to decide how you want to respond, rather than letting your emotions dictate your actions. The manipulator loses their grip because they can't pull you into the emotional turmoil they've created. In addition to emotional detachment, another key strategy is practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness is about being fully present in the moment, aware of your thoughts and feelings without letting them overwhelm you. When you're mindful, you're less likely to react impulsively to a manipulator's provocations. You become more attuned to the ways they are trying to control your emotional state, and you can choose not to let them succeed. Mindfulness allows you to create space between the manipulative behavior and your emotional reaction, giving you the clarity to respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. Another important part of emotional control is setting boundaries both internally and externally. Internally, you need to decide what behaviors you will and what tolerate from others. If someone crosses those boundaries, you don't need to react in anger or frustration. Instead, you can assertively communicate your boundaries, making it clear that you won't be manipulated. This might mean calmly stating, "I'm not comfortable with how this conversation is going," or simply walking away from a situation where your emotions are being toyed with. Externally, setting boundaries involves ensuring that your relationships are based on respect and mutual understanding, not manipulation. Controlling your emotions also requires a certain level of self-confidence. Manipulators often target people who are unsure of themselves or who need external validation to feel good. By building your self-esteem and trusting in your own judgment, you become less vulnerable to manipulation. When you know your worth, you're less likely to feel the need to prove yourself to others, which is often how manipulators get a foothold. You recognize that their tactics, whether it's making you feel guilty, flattering you excessively, or criticizing you harshly, are just tools to throw you off balance. But when you stand firm in your own confidence, those tools lose their effectiveness. Controlling your emotions means recognizing that sometimes no response is the best response. Manipulators often thrive on drama, on pushing your buttons until you explode. They want to see you react because your reaction gives them the control they crave. But by choosing not to respond emotionally, you deny them that satisfaction. Silence in the face of manipulation can be one of the most powerful tools at your disposal. It sends a clear message that you are not a pawn in their game, and it allows you to retain your emotional energy for more productive, positive interactions. In conclusion, controlling your emotions in the face of manipulation is about being aware of how your feelings are being influenced and choosing to respond in a way that serves you, not the manipulator. It's about maintaining your inner calm, setting boundaries, and ultimately taking back the power that manipulators seek to steal. When it comes to dealing with manipulators, one of the most effective tools you can use is strategic thinking. Manipulators often work behind the scenes, subtly influencing your decisions and emotions to serve their own agenda. They play a calculated game, and if you don't recognize that, you can easily become a victim of their schemes. However, the moment you approach these situations with strategy, just as they do, you take back control. You can outmaneuver them, turning their tactics against them and gaining the upper hand. Strategic thinking begins with observation. Before reacting to a manipulative situation, take the time to assess what's happening. This requires patience and an ability to step back emotionally. Manipulators often want you to act quickly, to make decisions while you're feeling pressured or confused. That's part of their strategy, pushing you to react before you have a chance to think. But by slowing down and observing their behavior, you can start to see patterns. What are they trying to achieve? How are they manipulating the situation? What tactics are they using? These observations are crucial in forming a strategy that works for you. Once you've identified the manipulator's goals and methods, the next step is to think critically about your own objectives. What do you want out of the situation? Often manipulators try to cloud your thinking, making you lose sight of your own priorities. But by staying clear on your goals, you can make decisions that align with your interests, not theirs. For example, if someone is pressuring you to make a decision that benefits them more than it benefits you, pause and ask yourself, does this move me closer to my own goals? If the answer is no, then it's time to consider how to respond strategically. A key part of strategic thinking is understanding leverage. Manipulators often believe they hold all the power in a situation, but that's rarely true. Everyone has some form of leverage, whether it's knowledge, influence, or even the ability to walk away from a situation. The trick is to identify your leverage and use it effectively. For instance, if someone is manipulating you at work, your leverage might be your performance, your relationships with others in the organization, or even your ability to bring attention to the manipulative behavior. Once you've identified your leverage, you can use it to create a more balanced dynamic, ensuring that the manipulator can't push you around without consequences. Another element of strategic thinking involves timing. Manipulators often try to rush decisions, knowing that people make poorer choices under pressure. But by controlling the timing of your responses, you take away some of their power. Don't be afraid to delay a decision if you need more time to think it through. A simple "I'll need to think about that" can diffuse a manipulative situation and give you the space you need to consider your options. By taking control of the pace, you're asserting your own authority and refusing to be pushed into hasty decisions. Strategic thinking also requires a degree of emotional intelligence. While controlling your own emotions is critical, understanding the emotions of the manipulator is equally important. Manipulators are often driven by their own insecurities, fears, or desires for control. When you understand what drives them, you can better anticipate their moves. Are they manipulating you because they feel threatened? Are they trying to make up for their own shortcomings by making you feel small? When you understand the emotional underpinnings of their actions, you can craft a response that either neutralizes their tactics or turns them to your advantage. One of the most powerful strategies you can employ is the art of misdirection. Manipulators expect certain reactions from you: frustration, anger, compliance, but when you give them something unexpected, it throws them off balance. This doesn't mean lying or being deceitful, but rather presenting an alternative narrative that confuses their efforts. For example, if someone is trying to manipulate you by criticizing you in front of others, instead of reacting defensively, you could respond with humor or indifference, completely disarming their attempt to control the situation. By redirecting the conversation or reframing their comments, you take away the power they thought they had. Playing the long game is a vital part of strategic thinking. Manipulators often focus on short-term gains, using immediate tactics to get what they want in the moment. However, if you think strategically, you can plan for the long term, keeping in mind how your actions today will affect your future position. This might mean not confronting the manipulator right away, allowing them to believe they have the upper hand for a while, only to turn the tables later when the timing is more advantageous. By thinking several steps ahead, you can create opportunities to outmaneuver the manipulator without them even realizing it. A crucial part of strategic thinking is choosing your battles wisely. Not every instance of manipulation requires a full-scale confrontation. Sometimes the best strategy is to let small manipulations slide while focusing your energy on the bigger picture. This doesn't mean ignoring manipulation, but rather picking the moments when it's most beneficial to assert yourself. By not engaging in every small conflict, you conserve your energy and resources for when they truly matter. Finally, Learning from experience is essential. Every time you encounter manipulation, whether you handle it well or not, you gain valuable insights. Reflect on what worked, what didn't, and how you can improve your approach in the future. Strategic thinking is a skill that develops over time. And the more you practice it, the better you become at recognizing manipulation and responding effectively. In conclusion, strategic thinking enables you to see manipulation for what it is: a game of control. By staying focused on your goals, understanding leverage, controlling timing, and anticipating the manipulator's moves, you shift the power dynamic in your favor. You move from being a passive participant to an active player, capable of outthinking and outmaneuvering those who try to manipulate you. Empowerment through wisdom is one of the most crucial defenses against manipulation. When you possess wisdom rooted in self-awareness, experience, and knowledge, you create a solid foundation that manipulators find difficult to shake. Manipulators often target those who lack confidence, direction, or the knowledge necessary to see through deceptive tactics. However, when you empower yourself through wisdom, you become far less vulnerable to manipulation because you can recognize it, understand its purpose, and act in ways that serve your best interests. Wisdom begins with self-knowledge. When you know who you are, what you value, and what your goals are, you are far less likely to be swayed by someone else's agenda. Manipulators often try to make you doubt yourself, suggesting that you don't know enough or that your feelings and instincts are wrong. But when you are confident in your self-awareness, you can stand firm against these tactics. You trust your judgment and don't feel the need to seek approval or validation from others. This self-assurance makes it difficult for manipulators to make you question your decisions or redirect your focus to their goals instead of your own. Part of wisdom also comes from learning from past experiences. Every time you encounter a manipulative situation, whether it's subtle or overt, it provides a learning opportunity. Even if you didn't handle a situation as well as you would have liked, the key is to reflect on what happened. What tactics were used? How did you respond? And what were the consequences of that response? Over time, as you encounter various forms of manipulation, you begin to see patterns. You start to recognize the same tactics being used in different situations, and you develop a toolbox of strategies for dealing with them. This accumulation of experience is a vital part of wisdom, allowing you to anticipate manipulation and respond in ways that protect your interests. Wisdom also involves understanding human nature. Manipulators often exploit universal human desires such as the need for love, approval, security, and success. They know that if they can tap into these desires, they can control your behavior. For instance, they might appeal to your desire for approval by flattering you excessively or manipulate your fear of rejection by withdrawing your support when you don't comply with their wishes. When you understand these basic human drives and how they can be exploited, you become more vigilant. You start to see when someone is trying to manipulate you by appealing to these desires, and you can consciously choose not to let those tactics influence your actions. Another important aspect of wisdom is the ability to see the bigger picture. Manipulators often rely on keeping your focus narrow on the immediate situation or on emotions like guilt or anxiety. They don't want you to take a step back and consider the broader context, because that's where their tactics fall apart. Wisdom allows you to look beyond the moment, to think about how a situation fits into your larger goals and values. For example, if someone is trying to pressure you into making a quick decision that benefits them more than you, wisdom tells you to pause and think about how that decision will affect your long-term interests. This perspective helps you avoid being drawn into manipulative traps that only serve short-term, surface-level needs. Wisdom is also about emotional intelligence. While controlling your own emotions is vital, wisdom allows you to understand the emotions and motivations of the manipulator as well. You can recognize when someone is acting out of insecurity, fear, or a need for control, and this understanding helps you respond with compassion or detachment, rather than getting drawn into their emotional games. You realize that manipulation often stems from the manipulator's own vulnerabilities. And this knowledge allows you to handle the situation with greater clarity. Instead of reacting emotionally, you can respond strategically, using your understanding of their motives to outmaneuver their tactics. Another key component of empowerment through wisdom is setting boundaries. Manipulators often push boundaries, testing how far they can go in influencing your decisions and emotions. When you are empowered by wisdom, you understand the importance of defining and maintaining clear boundaries in your relationships and interactions. You recognize when someone is overstepping, and you know how to assertively push back. Setting boundaries is not just about saying no when necessary, it's about knowing your limits and not allowing anyone to guilt or pressure you into crossing them. It's about protecting your time, energy, and emotional well-being from those who seek to drain them for their own benefit. Wisdom also fosters a sense of inner peace. When you're confident in your knowledge and experience, you're less likely to feel threatened by manipulative tactics. You don't need to constantly defend yourself or prove your worth to others. You know your value and you trust in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. This calm confidence makes you less reactive and more thoughtful in your responses. Manipulators thrive on creating chaos and confusion. But when you operate from a place of wisdom, you remain steady and composed, making it difficult for them to gain any foothold in your life. Finally, empowerment through wisdom is about continual growth. Wisdom is not a static trait, it's something that deepens as you continue to learn and reflect on your experiences. The more you engage with the world, the more opportunities you have to sharpen your awareness of manipulation and to refine your strategies for dealing with it. You never stop learning, and this continuous pursuit of knowledge ensures that you stay one step ahead of those who seek to manipulate you. You become more resilient, more self-assured, and ultimately more empowered to live life on your own terms. In conclusion, wisdom gives you the tools to navigate manipulative situations with grace and strength. It allows you to see through deceptive tactics, understand the motivations behind them, and respond in ways that protect your autonomy and well-being. Through self-knowledge, experience, emotional intelligence, and a commitment to continual learning, wisdom empowers you to rise above manipulation and stay firmly in control of your life.